sorry I can't be here to help you learn the quadratic formula, but I made this video so that you could watch it over and over again so that you could get the quadratic formula down. So I'm going to do these two problems for you. The next two problems I'd like you to do in your notes. So please take notes while you're watching this video in your packet. So number one, x squared minus 6x equals negative 2. Step 1 of quadratic formula, rewrite in standard form. So add the 2 over. So x squared minus 6x plus 2 equals 0. Now this is in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Next step of quadratic formula, locate your a, b, and c. If you wrote this in order, it should be really easy. A is in front of x squared, and if there's no number, it's a 1. B is in front of x. I'm going to take the negative sign with it. And c is your constant. And next, all we do is take this and plug it in to the quadratic formula. X equals, and I use parentheses every time I plug in for a, b, and c. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a, which is 1, times c, which is 2, all over 2 times a. So you'll notice, everywhere there was a b in the formula, I wrote negative 6. Everywhere there was an a, I wrote a 1. Everywhere there was a c, I wrote a 2. Parts of the formula that always stay there are plus and minus, square root, this negative 4, and this 2. So I do these in multiple steps. So the first thing I do is plug in what's underneath the radical into my calculator. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root. Now this should only be one number. I get 28. Check to make sure that negative 6 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 1 times 2 is 28. Or you can do it in parts. Negative 6 squared is 36. 4 times 1 times 2 is 8. 36 minus 8 is 28. All over 2 times 1. Next, what I'm going to do is simplify these two things. Negative 6 is positive 6. 2 times 1 is 2. So from here, this answer would be okay, but we've learned a long time ago that simplifying radicals is the best way to get your answer. So you can't leave any perfect squares left in a radical. So take that 28, and I'm only looking at this right now. Find a perfect square that goes into 28. 4 times 7. 4 comes out as a 2. 7 stays underneath. So what I'm going to do is replace the square root of 28 with that. X equals 6 plus or minus 2 square root of 7 all over 2. So you'll notice the square root of 28, I took the perfect square out. The last step I call part simplification. So what we have here is actually 3 whole numbers and a radical. If you can divide out a number from the heart, you will. So is there a number you can divide out of 6, 2, and 2. And it only works if you can take it out of all 3 numbers. The radical is not like terms with any of those, so that doesn't count. So you can divide out a 2 from each of these. So we get a 3 plus or minus 1, radical 7, all over 1. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And last but not least, I'm going to take away the 1s because it's identity property. And there's my final answer. It's actually 2 answers. 3 plus the square root of 7, 3 minus the square root of 7. That would give you 2 different answers. Okay, let's do it again. Make sure you write these down as we do it. Next problem number 2. The first thing wrong with this is that it's not written in standard form. I like to keep my a term positive, so I'm going to move these 2 terms over. So I'm going to subtract the x and subtract the 6 from both sides. When I write it in standard form, I get 2x squared minus x minus 6 equals 0. Next thing I want to do is locate my a term, my b term, and my c term. These are always, if you're in standard form, they are in order. So what's in front of the x squared? That's your a term. What's in front of the x? That's your b term. That's actually the identity property. That number is -1. What's your c term? What's your constant? -6. So I just plug into the formula. I'm going to show you some shortcuts that I didn't show you over there. When I do x equals -b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. One thing I do is I do the -b in my head. -b means opposite of b. So b is -1. What's opposite of -1? +1. So that's -b. Plus or minus the square root. This part I always just plug in like normal with parentheses. Regular b squared, those parentheses have to be there. -4 times your a term, which is 2, times your c term, which is -6. And again, now this is the part I do in my head. All over 2 times a. 2 times 2 is 4. So those are 2 shortcuts that I do. I do the opposite of b, and I times my 2 to my a term. Just like we did in the other problem, you just plug this right into your calculator. If you're good at multiplication and addition, you can do this in your head. -1 squared minus 4 times 2 times -6 is 49. So I'm going to replace everything underneath with 49. Now this one is different than the last problem because 49 is on your list of perfect squares. So what's the square root of 49? It's 7. Notice it's plus and minus 7, and that's part of the problem. You see here I'm left with no radicals, and here I was left with a radical. Since there's no radicals, that means these are all like terms. So what I can do here is combine this into 2 different problems. I can actually go even further with this problem. 1 plus 7 divided by 4, so I'm doing the plus, and I can actually add 1 and 7, they're like terms. 1 plus 7 is 8 divided by 4, and the last thing you ever do is your divide. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so there's one of your answers. The next thing I'm going to do the minus. 1 minus 7 divided by 4. Well, 1 minus 7 is -6 divided by 4, and that doesn't divide, but I can simplify that. So this problem has 2 answers, 2 and -3 over 2. This problem also had 2 answers, but they were left in the radical, so your 2 answers were left together. I could not combine these any further, because this is a whole number, this is a radical. These are not like terms. Okay, so I would like you to finish question 3 and 4 in your notes. Please write them in standard form. Then plug into quadratic formula. I must see this step. Then simplify underneath the radical. Then, if it's a perfect square, take it out. If you can take out any perfect squares, do that. And then simplify further. Thanks.